What led to you leaving them?
Visa problems.
Oh.
I did England, then I came home for Christmas before we went to Europe. We were going to Europe, had visa problems right away. They had to get me another work permit, and I came back in. We went to Europe, then we came to the States, then we went back, and they were basically saying to me, you've been here too many times, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. So I went, so they said, why don't you go back to New York and try to come back again. So while I was in New York, I met John Hewlett from John's Children. He managed Sparks and that kind of thing. He said to me, instead of going back to England, why don't you join this band that I just discovered? And I said, what's the name of the band? And he said, Milk and Cookies. He goes, they're a fantastic band, and I want to put you in the band. I want to replace their bass player with you. I can get you a deal with Island Records. I can get Muff Winwood to produce it. And he could back it up because he had just managed Sparks. He was managing Sparks, who had just had massive hits.
Another very influential band.
Another very influential band. And I said, well, let me check it out. So they were in Hewlett, Long Island, and I went to check it out, and I played with them, and I thought, wow, they are great, and the songs are great, and the whole thing's great, and I think they can be huge, especially in England. But I don't know if I'm right for them, I told them. I don't know if, you think I'm right for them? What's wrong with the guy they have now? He sounds good to me, I'm trying to talk him out of the gig, He goes, oh man, they sound 10 times better with you, and it's going to be huge, and if you go back to England, you're just going to be a session guy and a floating blah, blah, blah. You'll be a member of a band, and you're having visa problems anyway, this, that, and the other thing. So John kind of talked me into joining Milk and Cookies, and sure enough, within 2 months, we had a deal with Island Records, and we were in England making a record with Muff Winwood.
And what was it like working with Muff?
Muff was very laid back, sort of hands-off kind of a guy, except he had a lot of opinions about the bass. I butted heads with him on the bass. Really nice guy, a sweetheart of a guy.
What kind of things did he get on your case?
Well, like I wanted to play a Mutron on one song, like Bootsy Collins did. In Parliament Funkadelic, I thought, why not play a Mutron in a pop band? What's wrong with it? Muff was like, oh, absolutely not. It's not what the bass is for. I said, well, Muff, I have nothing but the highest respect for you. You're in the Spencer Davis band, but it's the 70s now, and I want to play the Mutron on this track, this, that, and the other thing. Anyway, stuff like that, we butted heads, fuzz. There's one song on the Milk and Cookies records that's basically 3 octaves of fuzz bass. He was against that. So I won most of the thing. And then later on when we did the record, he goes, I really have to apologize. I'm sorry. I opposed you on some of those things. They sound great now. So he came around to my way of thinking. And I used the Rick on that one. But about that project was that's where I met Rhett Davies, okay, who is Brian Ferry's engineer, and went on to engineer Avalon. And he brought me in on I did a record by Robert Calvert, who was a lyricist for Hawkwind. Okay. He brought me in on that record, and the producer on that record was a guy named Brian Eno, oddly enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how did you, after Milk and Cookies, that was not a commercial success, then you went to the Sparks from that, right?
Well, what happened with Milk and Cookies was I got frustrated. We came back to New York. We were playing the CBGB Max's scene. We were doing that whole thing. We played with everyone. Played with the Ramones. Played with Talking Heads when they were a three-piece before Jerry Harrison. We played with Television. We played with all the bands. And supposed to get another deal, kind of a thing, and this, that, and the other thing. And through John, oddly enough, he said, well, look, do you want to, Sparks is doing this record, do you want to play on it, but you still have to be in Milk and Cookies, but they want to use, excuse me, they want to use some New York musicians. So I said, I will play on the record, but I am in Milk and Cookies, you know. And I said, who else is playing on it? And they said, well, Mick Ronson's considering playing guitar. He's a big fan. So there I am, Mick Ronson's loft. So it's me and the Sparks guys and Mick Ronson and a drummer named Hilly Michaels, and we're working up material for Big Beat, which oddly enough Rupert Holmes produced. Strange choice for a hard rock record. I think Ron and Russell wanted Mick to produce the record. This is before. And so we were working on and rehearsing and working on material for Big Beat, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm playing Mick Ronson. That's pretty cool. And at the last minute, Mick said, you know, I want to concentrate on my solo career. I can't do the record, I can't do the tour, this, that, and the other thing. And he kind of pulled out of the project. And Ron and Russell were ready to pull the plug and go back to LA where they live and just do the record in LA. And I said, well, wait a second, I have a guy that I can bring in. And I brought in Jeff Salen from the Tough Darts, which was a New York band from the 70s. So that's basically how the record was cut. It was me, Jeff Salen, Hilly Michaels, Ron and Russell, with Rupert Holmes producing. And the record was called Big Beat, and it was on Columbia. They had left Ireland. They were still on Ireland in England, but they left Ireland in America. And this record was their big rock Aerosmith record, you know.
Yeah. Was that you did your Fender P on that? Was that?
No, that's the Rick.
That's a Rickenbacker.
That's the Rick 4001. Yeah, the blue Rick. Yeah, and what happened there was, and people tell me all the time, Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick loves my playing on that record. Yeah. He's like, I've stole a few of your licks.
Fill her up, those walking bass.
I go, tell me which ones you stole. So I think he was just being nice. But anyway, I get that a lot. And what happened was, we cut the tracks, and Jeff Salen's guitar was really, really loud. You know, it was supposed to be an Aerosmith record. And what happened was, he pissed everyone off so much while we were cutting the record. And I don't want to get into specifics because he's left us. And he was a great guy and a great guitar player, amazing guitar player. But they mixed him down, and they mixed me up. Or the fact that they mixed him down, I just popped out of the mix. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what happened. And Rupert also really liked what I did. All the melodic stuff I did appealed to him, so he really put me up in the mix. So, well, and the Spark stuff, I put to use every Anglophile lick that I could get my hands on. After being in a British band that wanted an American bass player, which is basically what Roxy wanted. Roxy liked, you know, Duck Don, and who I loved also.
Guys who stayed in the pocket, groove players.
They wanted a different thing. By the time I got to Sparks and Milk and Cookies to a certain extent, I was back to putting all my Anglophile licks, everyone I could muster up went on that record. So that's basically what happened there.